Okay guys, welcome to the Aether Defense compilation number 2. This will be a ongoing series every single week, as I'll try to do, at the end of a season. The goal of this video is to show off not only what my defense team was, and has changed over a season, some tips to maybe improve your own defense team, and yeah, just to maybe get some humor out of it as well. Unfortunately, this week is not too successful. But don't let that fool you. Keep in mind that I am tier 18 and that this ranks at the end of a season at about rank 489, even a little bit more was I to do another match. So the higher up you go in lift, the more difficult that it is to get a defense win successfully. And honestly, the goal at this point should be trying to minimize your losses on defense rather than trying to completely win. At least that's what I've learned so far. So yeah, let's go through these. Let's see how my defense evolved over the week and how I intend to use it on the bonus season coming up, which will actually be the same. So actually, the first thing you'll see at the bottom here that I'll showcase is Brotel. Brotel is a fellow FETuber. He makes awesome guides and also helps out the community in a very well-mannered way. He did play against me at the beginning of this season. He played really well, as you guys will see in a moment. This was my defense team at the beginning of the season. It was pretty good, but Brotel did show off a big flaw to it, and I did realize later on in the season that it wasn't going to work. I'll explain why, but essentially, my defense team here had its Dancer, had its Aversa, had the Reinhardt in the back, and your two bonus units for the week, which was Ana and Zephyl. Zephyl with bonus stats becomes almost like a Surtur, a red Surtur. Very difficult to kill. He doesn't get as much of the menace, so to speak, as Surtur does, nor does he get that splash damage, but he's very difficult to kill as well. So yeah, what you'll see here is that Brotel plays this really well, because what he does is he sets up his green units to expect that Reinhardt will get danced and he'll run away. So as you see, Reinhardt engages on Zephyl because that is the safest way to play it in the beginning. He can't really get onto Aversa. He can't really approach Ana without going through many turns of breaking buildings. So he chooses to go against Zephyl, and he's going to retreat that way. Notice how he keeps Ephraim in the corner, and this is intentional. He doesn't bring Ephraim closer. If you looked at my units, you'll notice that Reinhardt has no assist skill. This is meant to make it so Reinhardt moves before other units. The way AI functions is the units with no assists will move before those that do. So he retreats and he keeps his green units in the front with his blue units out of range. This is because he knows that Reinhardt, after getting danced, as you'll see here, cannot possibly reach Ephraim, nor can it reach Reinhardt. So that was an exceptionally good first turn play, or second turn rather. At this point, the enemy has been engaged, the AI moves, and that's a big flaw in the weakness, so I did end up patching it up in the end. At this point, he just cleans up the rest of the team one by one. It'll be really difficult for him to pick up the Ethers, but yeah, that's definitely one way to do it. Very smart AI assumptions, the way he played that. The drawback works against us here. Zephyl actually almost gets a kill there against Ephraim with Ignis, but since he doesn't have the merges needed to accomplish it, it doesn't pay off for him. Drawback does stall him. He does end up getting into player phase 6. It looks like by the end of this, he's only going to manage to pick up one Aether Fountain, as we'll see in a moment. He uses Ephraim to barely get the kill here, but really just setting up the Gale Force. He gets his one Aether Fountain, and that pretty much concludes a good solid ace by him. So good job to Brotel there. Moving on to the second replay. At this point, I've still not changed my team because this person would have faced me after Brotel did. But this person doesn't have a defensive catapult, an offensive catapult. So that means that my units are at a stat advantage. He has Hrid, Ophelia, Bridal Ninian, Desperation on Hrid, interesting choice. He's got an AoE special, which is definitely a good choice to bring against somebody like Zephyl, who gets a lot of his stats from in-combat buffs. And AoE specials trump in-combat buffs. So he uses Hrid to test the trap, a smart play by him. Zephiel is exposed and very vulnerable to dying to Ophelia. We'll see when he does commit to it, which would be right here. He clears the buildings first, tests the traps. It's turn 5. At this point, he kills Zephiel, gets some pretty good value in Blazing Light as well. The AoE special also brings Zephiel under half, which means that he can double. She can double, rather. Ophelia can double. He YOLOs the trap there, which I definitely wouldn't recommend doing, but he must have assumed that the lightning trap under Zephiel was real. So, a solid risk to take. Unfortunately, he underestimated the power of Anna, and his small Zura got wrecked. But other than that, it was decently played. And of course, he did have the stat disadvantage. Moving on, we have 3 foes defeated. I still have not changed my defense team as of this point. Everything remains the same. Pretty decent investments overall. No merges on Reinhardt. Azura's merged. He brings a legendary Lucina, plus 10 Sakura, I think also Summoner supported, and Ally supported with Azura. Flying Azura, that is. Bringing a Guidance and killing off Akariss. Bonus unit is Levitine and Versa as well for debuffs. He has a Catapult this time, so stat differences are the same. As you can see, going through the side like this, unlike Brotel's earlier play, takes many turns to set up. We're already on player phase turn 3, and his Bolt Tower ends up hitting my units, but I do have a healing tower in that corner, so because he won't do that, I'll get healed. A lot of pain coming in from Sakura. It seems like he's just going to leave Sakura behind the tactics room, which is a decent option, but unfortunately Reinhardt gets Dance, which he didn't account for, and Levitine was susceptible to getting killed. Anna also has Noatin and Wings of Mercy, so she ends up just repositioning Lucina out. Lucina chooses to kill there, and Sakura ends up killing Anna. Again, at this point, TA on Small Zura is going to finish off Legendary Lucina due to her blue color. Again, he didn't account for Zephiel being guidance in by Aversa, so at that point, his Aversa got wrecked, and he's down to 2 units. Thankfully, his Sakura is quite well invested, and Zephiel cannot counterattack, nor can he really engage due to 1 movement. But he did make many mistakes, and definitely didn't account for a lot of things here. Okay, and now we have Sha fighting against us. Looks like he played pretty well. At this point, no changes were made to our defense team yet, but people have started bringing in their air with a stat-stacked Merrick. Summoner supported, Ally supported, 2 Light Blessing buffs, 45 res, 41 defense. Absolutely disgusting stats, plus his Dancer and bonus unit. So he doesn't care. Merrick is super tanky and a good counter to pretty much everything, because when you have 2 airs blessing Merrick, who normally would have low res, somebody like Small Zura, even with Book of Shadows, will not be able to dent him. And of course, even with Aversa being a red, it just doesn't matter with Excalibur having effective damage against Aversa. So I'm pretty much left with Anna and Zephiel right on turn 1, and I realized at this point that my defense team was really susceptible to really strong enemy phase units. Not specifically Merrick, but really any unit that had really good res. It could just tank everything in that corner, because all my units were using magic. So since he got a pretty easy clean sweep, he's going for the final fountain. Just setting up his kill on Zephiel here. Zephiel cannot even threaten the team at this point. This is why armors are generally not too good on defense, because it lets when they're the last unit, you just have like free fountains at that point. And finally, Surtur. So this is where we changed our defense team, where I wanted to make it a little bit better against people that wanted to enemy phase. This defense team was inspired by Brotel. So after I played against him, he has a very similar defense team here, using rallies to set up tricks. I want to call it tricks. We still have the Reinhardt gimmick in the corner, who gets danced immediately. If they tend to like snipe Ana, for instance, he would move here and then get danced by Azura, for instance. Aversa is still in the team to provide that negative buff support. But one thing I didn't account for, of course, was, well, it's Surtur bonus week. So unless you're accounting for Aversa literally doing everything for you, this is generally what happens. Yeah. So even with rallies being able to set up nice kills for us, as you'll see, Ana is about to rally Aversa and then get danced. Ana is not really the right unit to use against Surtur, as you'll notice. So I realize at this point, you don't really want to use Aversa as your sole red unit to be fighting against a +10 Surtur. Ophelia ends up cleaning up on player phase, and Surtur tends to just start off this fight really well. He didn't even care about that trap, by the way. That could have been a risk to him. But honestly, it's Surtur, so he probably wouldn't have died anyways. Steady Stance 4 completely denies Reinhardt from doing any damage, and it's a pretty free win for him at this point. He's going to make sure he cleans up the fountains. And just use Surtur. Well, he didn't clean up the fountains completely. It seems like he missed the chance for the right one. Okay, so the defense that follows that, I still decided to, well, I didn't really decide to stick with Ana, but I did realize at this point that since Surtur showed up again, and this time he had no assist skill, and really this opponent just doesn't want to really invest in most of his units, as we'll see in a moment, just using pretty much base kits on everything other than Reinhardt. Even Aversa tends to have her base kit with an HP seal. I realized that at this point, my defense team shouldn't really be losing to something like this. So all he needed to do was just end turn. Again, same predicament happens, even if Reinhardt ends up getting danced, as we'll see. Actually, Ana gets danced because she rallied. Ana's just not threatening to Surtur. 7 damage isn't really going to win you any matchups. As long as he's a bonus unit, this will continue to be the case. As you see, Aversa with Axebreaker just isn't quite enough to kill him, especially since he had Brazen Attack Res activated on his seal. His Reinhardt ends up killing here, but but the thing is, he ended up using his Reinhardt to kill the Aversa, and that was probably to protect his Surtur. So he threw away one unit, and that didn't really need to happen. The Aversa threat was there. He ends up killing one fountain, probably get the other one as well. And he's just using Surtur at this point to block so that he can pick up the other fountain before the match is over. Steady Stance 4 really stealing this one out, denying Reinhardt of any opportunity to charge his special. And it was at this point that I realized I think that I needed to switch over my team. And so I did. So I had a Levitine as a bonus unit. So instead of using Ana, I ended up switching to Levitine with Azura having guidance. At this point, if a Surtur wanted to end turn on me, they would be extremely threatened by Levitine fully buffed by Deluge Dance, Attack Tactic, Fortified Defense, and Lunge would set up Aversa with Axebreaker. Additionally, I decided to put Era in this position with Poison Strike, so even if she does no damage, she does do 10 damage, she debuffs with the dagger, and really sets up a lot of damage for Levitine. So the end turn that approaches us with Surtur, he's hesitant. He's hesitant for now, but he doesn't see it. As you see, as a player playing into this, you'll see that Aversa doesn't threaten this spot, and you also see that Levitine doesn't threaten this spot. But he plays it pretty smart by moving forward, but still, Levitine does rally in, get dance, and hit Surtur for a solid 47 damage. gets lunged, gets poisoned, but doesn't quite die because Aversa can't reach. Reinhardt does nothing. But at this point, Surtur is completely trapped, and unless he can completely get out of danger, he's in a bit of trouble. Because as we'll see in a moment, Aversa, after getting poisoned and debuffed by air, there's your Axebreaker kill on Surtur. So, threat has been defeated, and the change in plans did work midweek. Now going into the next week, I know that I'm confident in this team being able to defeat Surtur. It's not completely useful against other teams, but we'll see that in a moment. One of the things I highly recommend to most people is definitely looking at your replays and being able to improve it in any way you can. Analyzing your own replays, recognizing what's wrong with it, even testing them out is some of the best things you can do. Okay, and next up is this one. Of course, as we saw, Surtur is quite a commonly used unit. There's our +10 Surtur with distant defense. He's got his air, he's got Olivia, and he also has this beauty here, a +10 Faye. Surprising. It seems like he has more trust in his Surtur, as we'll see in a moment. He tries to go in this blind spot that he thinks is blind. Well, Levitine rallies, gets Dance, Poison Strike takes priority from AI, Poison Surtur, and Levitine kills her dad. So at this point, he probably realized he made a grave mistake. Faye ends up killing Reinhardt, who's overexposed. But air is quite good against dragons, because air has Mystic Boost, and Mystic Boost plus her weapon means that Faye cannot counterattack, with QR at least. And she also makes sure that Faye counters her res stat. The debuffs and poison also set up a kill for Azura. A rally here by Levitine sets up a nice clean kill on Aversa with buffs. So he gets pretty wrecked by the team comp overall. Faye doesn't end up being such a good choice in the end. 3 casualties down is already quite hurtful. He doesn't have an escape ladder, as we can see from the offensive buildings. But air is a good offensive unit, has some good res, so Aversa will clean up. Okay, final 2 replays. The one success we got of the week, as you no doubt expected, we got +10 Reindeer, we got a +2 Surtur with an Obstruct Seal, but he does have the Light's Blessing, he does have the Summoner support, and he's got the ally support with air. So this one does end up having a lot more res, HP, and defense than the +10 one did, because he's invested in it further. He also has chill attack and quite a high health Aversa. He ends up smiting Surtur into range, activating the lightning trap. Unfortunately for him, I have lunge and attack defense bond now on Levitine, so she's gonna rally. She gets Dance, Poison Strike, plus the debuff ends up happening here. Levitine will go in, do 47 damage, get lunged, and that sets up the attack from Aversa, who ends up cleaning up almost 120 or 30 bulk on Surtur there. He ends up getting some solid kills here, but he does leave up my Reindeer. So Reindeer gets buffed, ends up killing air. AI attacks from a very awkward position, so unit blocks themselves from being able to kill the other Reindeer. And this leaves up just Aversa. Do note that if you don't have like Levitine, for instance, you could be using a red with like Armor Smasher, and it would be quite competent as well. For example, Navarre is a bonus unit this week, and even though he has a Scarlet Sword, if you had an Armor Smasher on Navarre, he'd be okay with the same setup. Effective damage is very powerful. So for some reason, he chooses not to kill my Azura there. He chooses to surrender. And I'm going to assume this is the escape ladder bug because it affected me earlier. So he had a choice to attack. He could have got danced and killed off Azura, but he chose not to. So I feel like this was probably the escape ladder bug that I was a victim of earlier in the week. Stat success wasn't really legitimate. I think he was just trying to quit and save his mistakes. If that's the case, I feel sorry for him. And finally, a failure to end it off. So, as you can see, there is no Surtur on this team. Instead, we have a +2 Micaiah. We also have a Dancer Micaiah as well. This final team that came across my defense team ended up being pretty much Soth and his 2 ladies, plus Hrid as the bonus unit, and Air as the unit that provides extra points on lift. So as you'll notice, since the team is dedicated to being completely anti-Surtur, a solid blue unit does handle it pretty well. So this guy did recognize that weakness. He tests the trap, also tests the lightning trap as well. But a Micaiah with close counter, vantage, deflect missile, that'll do it. That'll do pretty well. There's no missile on my team, of course, but he must be doing that because maybe because of Brave Lens or Fire Sweep users. We don't necessarily know. So he dances to make sure that Aversa doesn't get affected by Aversa. Takes him 5 turns to set up. Maybe he was uncertain. He debuffs with Soth, and he gets Peshkats on Micaiah. Micaiah is now taking almost no damage from Reinhardt. Solid 100 damage retaliation. Vantage is active. Aversa tries to kill off Soth. It's not really enough. The reposition coming in from Air. Does get Tactics Room though, so unfortunately she's quite susceptible. Sacrifice hits Soth, and Soth gets Dance for a nice clean kill there. Both Ethers are taken. Azura tries to kill Soth. Doesn't really work out. I think the last thing I forgot to mention is this guy did end up having a level 3 offense for it, so I was at a significant stat advantage. Would it have mattered? I don't think so. I think he played pretty well. So that pretty much compiles our defenses for this week. I think we learned a lot. I hope you picked something out of it too. Just as a final look at my team, there are some suitable replacements if you wanted to make them yourself. A Levitine could be replaced for like Navarre, for instance, or just a really solid +10 unit may have, such as Soleil. If you had like a +10 Soleil with Armor Smasher, I'm sure she would do really well as well. You don't really need something like Fury. Deathblow would work as well. Lunge is pretty nice here to set up things like Aversa with Axebreaker. I highly recommend Aversa to most people. I got a Flyer, or like a Dancer in this spot with a Flyer here with Guidance is crucial for this sort of trick where you do a rally defense. And Reinhardt, or really a Brave Bow user in the corner here without an assist skill, is very nice to make sure that this unit moves first and gets danced by Azura. Poison Strike is an interesting gimmick here, as it lets the unit with Poison Strike attack first no matter what, as long as the unit doesn't die on retaliation. So it ensures that Air is able to debuff using her dagger and Poison Strike to set up nice kills for whoever you intend to be your ace unit. The left side is vulnerable to units like that you saw there, like Micaiah. I'm sure a buffed up Noe could do it as well. Probably other units like Effie could do it. So that pretty much concludes my second defense compilation. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll continue to do it weeks forward so that you and I can both learn something together. Let me know in the comments below what works for you. I'll of course try to include your lift and tier so you can get some decent information based on what tiers and what rankings and how your defense team holds up in that area. Like the video if you did, and subscribe if you haven't. See you guys in the next one. Peace.